So for the context of today, we're talking about content moderation. And I know this is can be a very technical topic to a lot of people, but it will be a bit simplified for us here in this context. Content moderation is a very recent and not so recent profession. I think I can say it is less than 20 years professions. With the advance of social media, we have so many platforms. Initially, this platform started as a very small platform for connections, but they now house billions of users online. And with these users also comes the huge responsibility of managing what people should say online and what is acceptable by the society. So you see a lot of issues that happen in the US, in the elections in the US, where they're now discussing interference, election interference. You hear things like Cambridge Analytica, where case people had access to content and were able to manipulate users. You hear cases even in, not so far, but also in our region, with the conflicts in Ethiopia. You find sometimes even people sued Meta for interfering, for not taking actions early enough. We also have cases here in Sudan right now. You see the conflict in Sudan, they all have other online dimensions. Of recent in South Sudan, we have also witnessed the riots that happened in our town here, mainly as a result of the graphic images and the violations that happened in Wad Medini. And a lot of this content overnight circulated to all our phones. Our kids were able to watch it, very graphic content. Initially, such content will be filtered through mainstream media so that they can block, they put what is age appropriate. But now with social media, it can get everywhere. Now with the recent incident in Nasir, we see clearly the video that surfaced. I think a lot of us, unfortunately, were able to see it on our phones. And such kind of content has impact on our psychological well-being, and also had other impact in polarizing the society and creating unnecessary havoc. What is the role of the society? What is the role of the media? What is the role of the law? And what is the role of the regulator? And how, where does the limit happen? So I think this discussion is part of a larger conversation that will be happening. I think people are already having these conversations, but it is good that we're starting it here and we're starting it with the people online. So with me here, I have from my left-hand side, Mary Ajith. Mary is an experienced journalist, both in print and also in radio. She managed the Catholic radio network before. She was also the chairperson of AMDIS, and she currently serves as the chairperson of SSBC. And she's also the manager for Journalists for Human Rights and managing a project that tackles misinformation in South Sudan. We have Engineer Napoleon Adok Gai, Honorable Engineer Napoleon Adok Gai, the Director General of the National Communications Authority, infamously known for shutting social media briefly. And now, you know, some time back, people were criticizing for shutting social media. I'm seeing last week, everyone is calling him to shut social media. So, Engineer Napoleon is he's the Secretary to the Board of the NCA, but he's also the Director General of the National Communications Authority, mainly in charge of regulating telecommunications in this country. The National Communications Authority manages so many aspects of our telecommunication from the space. So you see things like Starlink, the telecommunication networks, but also how content is delivered and how content is managed in this country. We have Wani Stephen on the far left. Wani Stephen is the Deputy Secretary General of the Bar Association, the recently elected Bar Association. Wani is a practicing lawyer. He has an experience in intellectual property, IP. You know, IP means different things. For the technical people, they see IP, they think of IP address, but he has experience in intellectual property and mainly human rights, and he also sits on the board of Digital Rights Frontlines. And your able moderator. Okay, you'll see if at the end whether I'm able or not, but I'm just preempting it. So, so I hope that we'll have a very rich discussion in this. This is how it's going to be. I'll try not to moderate so much, but I will give ample time to each of our guests to speak their mind, to give their view on how do they see this issue and what are the intricacies of it. And then I will give the rest of the time for questions from the audience and then questions from online. So I will, in that order, what I'll do, I'll probably start with Mary, then I'll go to Wani, then I'll allow Engineer Napoleon to conclude at the end. And also feel free, if I forgot any of your titles, feel free to plug in the introduction so that I don't do you injustice. So our media people, are we good with everything? Pony? Everything is okay? Okay, super. So I will hand it to Mary.
Thank you. Thank you, Nelson. I'm glad to be here this afternoon. And as mentioned by Nelson Halley, I manage a project on tackling disinformation and hate speech. And for the past few months, we have actually been tracking the online and also the mainstream media on the frequency of misinformation, disinformation, and hate speech. And two of the reports we have released, one last year and one early this year, indicated that actually the mainstream media doesn't intentionally share disinformation and hate speech. Unlike online media, where there is 100% chances of people actually sharing information when they know it has that content, or when it is misinformation because they are excited. And especially for the content creators, they would want more followers. So what they do is they look for sensational information. Unlike previously, when print media will look for sensational headlines, but they have ethics because of the code of conduct and ethics. But for online, South Sudanese young people have found a way of surviving the community standards by looking for loopholes in terms of their community, like the languages they speak locally here, which actually platforms like Meta cannot understand. So, having content moderators within the country is very important, because if it is an outsider moderating the content for a country like South Sudan, those people will not understand Arabic. They will not understand other languages that South Sudanese speak. So in our report, we established that actually most of this content, especially during the World Medan event, were in Arabic. So there were other South Sudanese sharing them when they don't even know what they are sharing. So that became misinformation. And then there were those who knew Arabic, they fluent Arabic, but they were still sharing because they wanted to cause more damage. By that time, the human rights activists didn't come up because it was like, we are being patriotic. It's about South Sudan. It's our people being killed in Sudan. So people mistakenly took it for patriotism, that we are doing this because we want our citizens to be protected in Sudan. Things changed later when actually other events in South Sudan, especially the event in Eastern Equatoria State between the pastoralists and the farmers, took place. People now turn to their communities, the tribes where they came from. And unfortunately, I felt bad because those whom I call in most of the platform human rights activists turned into tribal activists, So they went back to their communities and they were the ones now sharing hate speech, calling names that I really don't want to mention because they are not good names for any South Sudanese to be called. So the rise of hate speech went up, and as a human rights activist, I felt bad because people took advantage of what was happening and they were violating on the rights of others. And when on the 22nd of January, when National Communication Authority took the initiative to shut down, partially shut down some internet, some social media platforms, we all cried out. And for the first time, Bar Association, that was known for being silent, became among those, became among those institutions that came out and say, oh, National Communication Authority, you are infringing on Article 24 of our Constitution. And I know Wani is better in laws, he will talk on that. And some of us also who are fond of human rights, who are also concerned. Because not only were those who abused the platform targeted, but you see, one person, what you do as a person can affect the whole country. So all of us, even who had nothing to do with what was happening online, were also affected in a way. Because when the social media platform was shut down, we could not have access anymore. And there was that outcry, which the government could not sustain for long because it could have led to something else. So after 3 days, we came back, and then again now we have Nasir issue. And the issue of Nasir went back again to people going to their villages. I'm in some WhatsApp platform where we have intellectuals, highly educated people who even have PhDs, but they are the ones contributing to hate speech. Because they feel that if it touches their community, it touches their ethnic groups, then that concerns them. So my concern is that, as a citizen of this country, we need to go back to little issues like, what is the role? What is your role as a citizen? Because it all starts there. So once you know your role, there would be no need for you to go back to your community WhatsApp groups, to your communities and chant, those hateful messages. So preventing, actually, content moderation should be done in a way that it prevent harm, and it protects those who use the platform. Myself, I have not been happy going online recently because the moment you open your phone, any content that you didn't want to interact with, because you are there, you will interact with it, not by choice. So what I would advise is that there are people we know. And actually, there was one lady who had been with me in this profession of civil society and the media for long. I confronted her. Little did I know she has immigrated few months ago. So she's now using her chance of being abroad to spread hate speech. So when I confronted her, she is like, how will you find me? So I went and asked some of my friends, what happened to our colleague? She's asking me, how will I find her? And they said, because she has migrated, she's now in Belgium. I said, well, Belgium is a country, and there are ways of locating you. So you should not have been a human rights activist when you were in South Sudan, and then after locating out of South Sudan, you are now spearheading hate speech. And we could all see her chanting these war songs, I felt terrible because the people who are doing this are not actually people who are not aware of the dangers that disinformation and hate speech can cause to our community. So I'll get back later, but let me give it back to
Okay, thank you so much, Mary, for this elaborate explanation of the situation. We can clap for her. And also for articulating the human rights angle of this, and also the dimension that involves our identity at times. People profess a certain thing, but then, I was telling them during this Nasser crisis, you can almost guess someone's tribe from the sentiment of their tweet. Like you can know, this is pro this and this is pro this, because people go back to their natural allegiances. So I'll now give to Wani, the Bar Association. I think they're not that silent now. Maybe he can give us his view also before we give it to Engineer.
Okay. First of all, thank you, Kwaje, and the entire team of Seniors Hub for having this event. I think this is a very vital and important topic that we need to be discussing. As South Sudanese, as netizens, because if we don't, it will be a problem. So yes, my name is Wani Stephen. I am a deputy SG for the Bar Association. But I also have, my specialties is in information technology law and intellectual property. So that's why, I am more concerned about this conversation. Some of you who are here will be wondering, is this the same Bar Association who wanted to sue Napoleon NCA by Napoleon, NCA, a couple of weeks or months ago? Why are they sitting in the same table? One, it is very important for us to recognize that as South Sudanese citizens, there is certain things that we can all agree on. And one of these things is that South Sudanese have the right to freedom of expression, right? This is something that we cannot disagree. We look into it within our constitution. Mary just mentioned Article 24. But also there is a regional and international instrument that provides for that. For example, the African Charter on Human and People Rights, Article 9. But at the same time as well, there is... Perfect. Okay, apologies for that. But at the same time, there is the International Charter on People's and on Civic and Political Rights, Article 19, also provides for that. Now, what South Sudanese or what we don't sometimes understand is that as much as we have the right to freely express ourselves, we also have responsibilities, right? And some of these responsibilities is in exercising our freedom of expression, you know, we should not incite people. For example, Article 19 of the International Charter on Civic and Political Rights provide for that, you know. There is limitations to freedom of expression. But I don't want to talk much about limitations to freedom of expression. I want to bring this, I want to go out from the legal conversation and bring it to our context, because I can see majority of us might not be, you know, from that background. Why do we say it's very important for us to discuss issues of content moderation and provide solution to it? When we look into the incidents that happen, for example, what happened in, Kwaji gave example of what happened in Ethiopia, but also there is Myanmar, the same, you know, people during the revolution, or let me say during the uprising in Myanmar, a lot of people, you know, took it upon themselves and they think they can now express whatever they want, similarly to what we're doing now, right? And it resulted to people now, or citizens, acting based on what they see online, right? So it incited a lot of violence and a lot of people lost their life. Similarly in Nigeria, a couple of years ago in 2021, the regulator in Nigeria by then, it's called NITA, also reached to an extent that they had, they've decided to also block Twitter temporarily as well. Why? Because Nigerian people or Nigerian citizens were also, you know, misusing or were inciting citizens through social media or through their posts on social media. And by then I had the chance to work with ISF, Internet Sans Frontières, and we've you know, attempted to reach a compromise, you know, to have the Twitter ban in Nigeria lifted. Eventually it was lifted, not entirely based on our effort, but based on effort of other actors as well. But the reason why I'm bringing these examples is because I want to bring the fact that as South Sudanese, we have a very unique culture. We have a very complex, you know, tribal composition. You know, our country is composed of, people sometimes say more than 64 tribes, right? Or let's say 64 tribes. So each and every one of these tribes have their own unique culture, have their own triggers as well. You know, and then at the same time, we have a history that is, if not handled in wisdom, if people do not, you know, be more responsible and in their expression, it can take this country into a place that we all don't want this country to go to. And I don't want to go back to you know, our history. We all know what happened in 1991, and you know, before that, the Kokora, for example. A lot of time I speak about the Kokora, and when I talk about the Kokora, you know, as South Sudanese, we know what Kokora is, but we don't put it into our current context, right? We don't put Kokora into our current context. But if we want to put it in this .com era, basically it is inciting, incitement. People inciting, people, you know, calling other tribes with names, you know, inciting their own community that tribe X or tribe Z is bad. And we have seen what that had led to, you know, in the 70s. So that's why as a South Sudanese lawyer, but also as someone who is in the leadership of the Bar Association, this is a very important topic for us. However, we sit in a very complex role, whereby sometimes we need to also provide guidance, not only to South Sudanese citizens, but also to regulators on what is the balance, right? Because as much as we agree that there is a need, for us to look into how do you moderate, how do you regulate bad content to avoid, us heading into a place that we don't want to go to. At the same time, we know that people also have right to freedom of expression and speech and so forth. So this is why last time when NCA issued the directive, we came publicly and we threatened to sue the regulator. We were serious about it. We were going to sue the regulator if nothing had happened. Yeah. But the regulator was positive.
Are you guys going to sue him now to shut it?
This is where I'm coming, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I said it's very important for us to know and be responsible into what we are posting online. Why? Because sometimes the things that we say may incite others. The content that we are seeing now online, it's really problematic, and sometimes it really contradicts our values as South Sudanese. There is no tribe in South Sudan would say it is within their culture to commit certain atrocities and, be proud about it. Especially the recent videos that we've been seeing online. This is something that all of us as South Sudanese will agree that these are bad behavior that we need to look into. How do we, ensure that, we don't encourage such things.
Okay. Thank you so much, Maulana Wani. I want to, because we'll have another chance.
Okay.
As you can see, Wani from the Bar Association gave a very elaborate explanation also on what will be the role of the bar and also some of the initiatives that they had taken. As he said, to threaten to sue the regulator. أنا بس أقول للناس اللي جو هنا هسي النقاش داير بلغتين. أنا بعرف بعد مرة بيكون في نقص بعد في المنصة من تجاه تفسير بعض المصطلحات باللغة العربية. لكن كسينيورز هاب طبعا السينيورز هاب هو مركز ذو لغتين، عندنا اللغة العربية وعندنا سينيورز باللغة الإنجليزية. سو تشعر بكل حرية انك تقدر تعبر نفسك في الأسئلة بعدين وفي التداخلات باللغة العربية كمان وباللغة الإنجليزية وكمان بعربي كونيو كمان، لأنه ده منصة مفتوح. جزء من الناس هنا بيكونوا بيكسبرس بإنجليش، لكن questions and every interactions is open for both. I will not explain to the English people what I said, but you people had the share of voice long ago, but I just said this is a bilingual or even multilingual forum, so feel free to ask the questions on the interaction based on both languages. Right now I'll give Engineer Napoleon, the young man who is present here, to give his view on this topic as well.
Thank you, Kwaje. First of all, it's an honor to be back here at the seniors. Over the weekend, I must declare that I was not feeling well. Actually, I've been down. But because I take this topic very important to my work and to my profession, I felt that I must come and make input. It is a timely discussion about content moderation. Before I could comment as a regulator, I have a habit. I would like to build context of what we are going to discuss. What is the context? We first must build the baseline of understanding. When we make reference to social media, yes, we know it is an open book. There's so many of them. But of course, the predominant now in South Sudan has been TikTok, Facebook, and Twitter. There are so many other things. There's the one called Clubhouse, which is audio. Those are the social media. Now, these social media platforms, where are they hosted and who own them? This is very important so that we can build contact as South Sudanese. How do we benefit from it? Most of these applications are owned by American companies based in California, and they subscribe to strictly American law and promote American culture and liberties. Therefore, when they define freedom of speech, it's not the same as we would wish to have here sometime. For example, in America, you've seen what they do. There are certain things that they will do that even here for us, we would not even dream of it unless you go across the border to say them. So first must understand that limitation. And then how do we connect to this social media? These social media, they are available free platform on internet. Anybody with internet can access them remotely. They don't have a presence here, legal presence here. Even when Bar Association want to sue me, their primary witness would have been Facebook. And it would have been interesting to see if they can bring Facebook here, an entity that is not registered legally in South Sudan. So this is what I wanted to say. Now, because this remotely located and remotely accessed by us, it is a very useful tool. Okay, to provide connectivity. The business model is based that the more people that access, the better for them, because they use the data for marketing. They get their money. It is free to you, but actually your content is sold to the advertisers. So you are a commodity to them. So the more people get online, that's why you get free Facebook and free Google, free whatever. For you, you think it is free. But what they want is that your behavior, your your habits are information that are monetized and sold to advertisers. What are those behaviors? For example, maybe some people like to go online to look at shoes. Some people go online to share books. Some people go online to discuss about music. So that information is aggregated, and those who are producing music or producing books now get information that I have 10 people in South Sudan who want to buy, who are looking for these books. That is the link. So you are an ingredient of a commodity online. This is a very high level business model in the West. I don't want to go into that, but it is necessary to understand this background. Now, for us as a country, how does Facebook look at us? The Facebook look at us as subscribers, as users, and therefore as users in a distinct geographical locations. So for them, this is the new crowd of people, new cultures, bringing in a lot of unique content, like wrestling, like all the jokes we are doing. So for them, we are actually important as a market area. But they are also in business of volumes. For example, Facebook pay more attention to Nigeria or South Africa because of obvious reason. There are 100 million there. Probably the Facebook's followers there are probably close to 80 million. The same with Ethiopia. Now you take our population in South Sudan and look at the percentage that are online. So far we have a total of 2.7 million people online. Not all of them use Facebook, of course. I would assume, I don't have the correct statistic, but I would assume more than 60% of that are young people who are going online and mostly on social media. So having painted this picture, how do we then as regulators of this country that have been established to regulate services on this area? And I want to correct Molana. NCA does not regulate content. There is a separate institution known as Media Authority which regulates content and all the journalistic behavior. But what NCA regulates are the mediums, the technology, through which those contents are shared. So, for example, when it comes to radio station, we have no power to say, why do you say this on radio station? No. It is not my mandate. It is the mandate of the Media Authority. But if that radio station broadcasts outside the frequency which it was allocated, meaning that it is infringing on other people, then we can now intervene. We'll say, listen, you are breaking the law. You must broadcast within the channel we gave you. Okay, for example, we gave Miraya 101, I think 101 point something. So if they decide to do 101.5 or 0.9, that's a violation. So this is our function. Now when it comes to technology, the situation get a bit blurred. Because in technology, we focus more or less in connectivity itself. We want you to have access to internet. We want you to have access to connectivity. Okay, now, things like social media are themselves a content driver. they don't bring you the connectivity. Now, the point where we get concerned is when the content producer begin to abuse the infrastructure. You know, instead of doing business, doing something else, then we intervene. And we intervene collectively with the content moderators, content regulator. I want to use an analogy of a vehicle, a truck. So take, for example, NCA is a traffic police that said, man a road, and it has a specific specification for all the cars going there. Any vehicle violating, it must stop it. But also, if the vehicle are refusing to stop, then it put a roadblock so that cars can stop, mandatory, or find another route. So the reason that we block, like when we blocked the social media, was not actually to stop. It's because we try to tell those who are using the infrastructure, please, there is something that is happening. Can you address it? They don't want to listen to me, so they would be going. That's why we decided to put a block so that they can listen to us. So when we told them that we are blocking specific social media, Facebook, we are not blocking the entire social media spectrums. We only identified this one. And we've been doing that because we are talking to them. We've been telling them, please, there is something here, can you address it? They say, walai, and then time is going. Can you please do this? Even you, when you drive around here, you're not like those traffic police which fight with you. If they stop you and you keep going, they will put a barrier on the road. So our engagement is similar to that, except that we have relations. All these people, we have a relation with them. After the incident of Medani, we effectively engage with the Meta at the highest level, because Meta also has a policy. They don't want the platform to be used to promote war. And when we presented to them substantial evidence of what is happening using the platform in our territory, they said they actually appointed representatives. There is now a person that I talk to every day who has been given a job to look after content of South Sudan. Okay? They have their own mechanism. What are the violations? It is a very taxing job that our people have to monitor every day when they find something that is not good, that we think can jeopardize our unity, our peace. We actually take a copy of that and send to them. And we wait. We tell them, this is this one, we don't like it. Please, can you address something? They will go and subject that communication to their internal rules. They also have a rules. They cannot, they don't just go delete whatever we direct them. They have a rule. Now, these requests have three categories. Number one, there is personal requests. Many of our subscribers actually tend not to know. Actually, the power is with you. You people can actually request or protest or report a page to Meta. Through your Facebook account, there's a channel. You can go and you select what you don't like and you submit to them. Okay? That is one directly between you and Meta. That is one category of reporting to Meta. There is the second category, which is legal. So somebody who feel aggrieved that, you know, I have a page which have insulted me or has impersonated me, he will go to police station, open a case, he goes to Mutahari, he will get an injunction, either from Mahakama, that you have a right to upload and send directly to Meta. The Meta will receive, compare all the detail and the court ruling and decide to either take action or tell you this thing does not infringe our community standard. So that is the second procedure. The third is government. And that's where I come in. The government procedure is when we raise complaints in relation to compliance in our country, representing laws that have been broken. So for example, when an image is there or something is there, we file a request to Meta directly through our point of context and tell them that this particular content violates a specific article in our laws. And we quote the articles, we copy the content and send it to them and wait, because they are not here. So all we do, we wait. And since we are not their priority, sometimes it can take you up to 3 weeks to 1 month for them to reply to you. You can imagine the frustration. My office is inundated with a lot of requests, people writing and coming and telling me, you do this, find me this person. We cannot find it because the platform is not here. The platform is in America. What we are seeing here is the window. We have no access to it.
Okay, so summarize so that we allow for questions.
Yes, so this just is good to build this picture, Nelson, because so that we will discuss later on the specificalities. But so you can see what has been actually expected a lot is that people are requesting the government to ask for this page to be brought down, while actually the power is with the users of social media. These 2 million subscribers online, if only 100,000 of them goes online and select a page and say they report this page, within 24 hours it will be brought down. Because what that does, it is sent to Meta that this is a content that is not liked by the majority. If we all love unity, the peace of our country, if we identified a page is spreading hate speech, each one of us here which has an account, even those of us which are in this hall, we are more than 40 to 50. If we all go and report, that page will come down. Meta also take into account the number of people that has raised the complaint. And this is actually the primary key tool that has been done. There were incidences in East Africa where some journalists from international media said something funny against certain country. And people, just ordinary people begin to complain until those people had to remove it. That is the power of subscribers on that level. Now, the government only engage in a procedural. Now, if Meta is not listening to us, we actually take legal procedure. We go and maybe somebody who is in a group open a law, open a case, and this case we compile and send it to Meta moderation unit. And they will now see that this is a requirement that is coming from a government level, and it is a must. And when we resort to shutting down, it's actually out of frustration because nobody is listening to us. So we will say, okay, if you are not listening to us, then your services will not be used in our country. And that required 2 levels of shutting down. There is usually technical level and political. Political is like the decisions I took. Okay, based on our laws, this we saw it is escalating, and these guys are not responding, so we took that decision. But technically, every country can put in place other mechanism, third-party system to control the content. It's a bit like content censorship, but it is actually, technically, you can block. And it is used for blocking applications that are doing criminal things, like, for example, Silicon Valley, that con a lot of our people, okay? And they are nowhere to be found. Nobody has shown up that is the owner of Silicon Valley. Okay, there's another one recently also. So normally we do this thing behind the scene, identify this application and shut it down. So it cannot be used in our country. So those are third-party technology that require investment to put them in place. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much. Engineer, we can clap for him. You put a very elaborate presentation in a picture on what is happening and the challenges with the regulator. I'll maybe just ask one question and then I'll allow it now for the audience, and also we'll have some questions from online. Like regarding this case, when you look at the Meta Transparency Report, South Sudan has never submitted what is called a legal request to Meta. Even despite all these things, despite all these complaints, we see countries like Turkey, US submitting thousands annually because Meta publishes all this. But like South Sudan, as a regulator, even the process that you talk about, there is no single case of South Sudan submitting a legal request on the Meta Transparency Report. How does that correspond with what you're saying?
Thank you, Nelson. That's why I was insisting to give you the context, because often there are things we overlook that are critical, and I think it will come out in the discussion later on. For the country, most of what is online, crime committed online, are actually categorized under cybersecurity crime. As we speak, the country has no cybersecurity law, is not out. That is one. The second one is data protection. For example, when you talk about you being impersonated, meaning your identity or your information are being used by somebody, that is actually a breach of your personal information. This usually under the data protection. The country has no data protection law. Now, those two laws are the foundation of every crime that you want to report. And that's why none of our legal requests cannot be categorized by Meta, because we are not citing a specific cybercrime law. We are citing penal code, okay, which for many advanced countries don't make any sense to them. Okay, they don't make any sense to them. If you are telling me this person has been impersonated, so where is the law about data protection? You are supposed to have that clause. It's not there. So we are this unique country that is very, very high up in consumption, but very low in laying the laws. We are very low in laying the law. So sometime I asked my brothers from Bar Association, I thought they would be championing the advocacy to expedite the passing of these critical laws, especially in a time when the country is proudly announcing that we are pushing for digital economy. I heard somebody talking in the TV the other day talking about digital currency. I was laughing. How are you going to protect digital currency without digital law? So there's a lot of talk that are at the high level, but the basics are not in place, Nelson. So that's why whatever we submit to Meta, unless we do it using another country, but not our laws, because unless we expedite the passing of cybersecurity law so that we can now take our position. Many of these fall under that. Thank you.
I'll allow Wani probably to comment. Basically saying that it's a lot of talk, but less less actions.
Okay. First of all, thank you, Nelson. And I think let me say also thanks for DG for bringing this conversation on the Data Protection Act, and then also the cyber crimes and computer misuse. This conversation we've been having it for a while, especially the data protection bill. We have a bill since 2020 that needs to be refined for it to be tabled. In our country, for you to make a law, it goes through certain procedures, and some of these procedures is after having a draft, following these consultations within the specific ministry or regulatory institutions. You table it to the ministry if it's coming from a regulatory body, and then to Ministry of Justice. From Ministry of Justice, it will go, to Council of Ministers, and then our Parliament for the first, second, and third reading to be passed. So with the Data Protection Bill of 2020, it's still a bill until now. Nothing has we don't know where it's happening. Somewhere last year, I've been following through that. I've been pushing for these two legislations to be enacted in my individual capacity, but also after the bar came, if some of you looked into some of our campaign, when we were campaigning, we have clearly stated that we're going to champion certain cause, and one of them is such conversations. So this is something that we have interest in, and we're going to continue to push for it, and we are going to also reach out to the regulator to try to see how can we work together to ensure that some of these regulatory framework are in place.
So now, when you look at for example, when you look at like challenging the regulator, when you guys wanted to challenge the regulator for shutting down the internet, so basically that is based on what the Constitution article of what expression, assembly, if someone shuts down the internet, does that constitute violating people's right to expression, right to free assembly, association? What are the implications?
So when we look into our context, when we look into our Constitution, it provides for the right to freedom of expression. And by anyone, because it's not only regulators that can limit access to certain platforms. Even our ISPs, they can do that. Even you here in seniors, if you have your own network, you can limit what the users who are coming here to use. What you want them to. You can have have restrictions on certain. So by doing that, or when NCA, issued that, for us, we saw it as violations to people's right to express themselves. And when we did that, we are trying to say, yes, there was something that wrong happened, but then we thought the remedy that the regulator had taken, in our views, there is other more legitimate way of doing it. So what do I mean? One thing that we have all agreed on in the beginning is that, yes, there is a need for us to moderate content. Some of the things that have been happening, especially the Sudan incident, in all the footages that was happening during the Sudan incident, was problematic. And even the recent one in Nasir is still problematic. And not only these two, I've been talking about issues of content since the Magui incidents, when there was not the recent one, the one in 2022. I started talking about that because I've seen there is something that is wrong. People, our communities in Magui, and also the cattle herders by then, were showcasing footages that can incite other communities, to continue with the same circle of violence.
In your view, like where we're going right now, we've seen the things from Nasir. We've seen what people say online. People say very horrific things. If you see the things online, you might think the White Army are in Terkeka now. Because it is one moment, like yesterday, they said they are marching, someone saying they are marching to Juba. They said also the White Army in Bentiu are closer here. The one in Wad, you see all these things. Like where can we, is there any reasonable place where we can actually shut down the internet?
Before I come to that, let me just finish where I was going, right? So, when I was speaking about those topics, because there is a need to regulate, but then how do we regulate in a way that complies with our laws, our constitution, and also the regional and international frameworks for freedom of speech? There is a need to have a regulation, there is a need to have a law in place, right? And DJ has just mentioned, and we all know that we don't have a Cyber Crimes and Computer Misuse Act. We don't have a data protection bill. That's why it brings us back to the need to advocate for this law to be in place. So when we want to now say, no, you cannot, for example, express X, Y, or Z, we have a legal document or we have a legal framework that provides for that. Because our Penal Code Act was enacted in 2008. This was a long time ago, before this conversation that we are having now became an issue, at least in South Sudan. It was in other parts of the world, but it was not in South Sudan. That's why our penal code is not enough, or let me say, it does not provide adequate regulation or adequate legal framework for us to have these conversations. And that's why there is a need to have the Cyber Crimes and Computer Misuse the Cyber Crimes and Computer Misuse Act.
Okay, so I want to come to Mary.
And then,
tell me about just very quick one on the question that I asked.
When can we say internet can be shut down?
Yeah.
When we look into international laws, because as a lawyer, I don't just speak out of the blue. I will not say when Kwaji, for example, says something that led X to go and punch someone. No. But when we look into international laws, for example, I've mentioned earlier on the International Covenant on Civic and Political Rights. Article 19, when you look into Article 19.2, it provides for limitations. And one of these limitations is that when the freedom of speech now can form a threat to public order, that is a legitimate, ground for it to be limited. This is just one example. But also when you go now down, yes, there is public order, there is issues related to public health, and we've seen during the COVID, a lot of countries have relied on that provision, even in Europe, to sort of have moderate information regarding COVID. There was a lot of disinformation and misinformation about COVID, so a lot of countries relied on that. But for us now to use it, we need now to have the law that will bring this this international framework and have it within our domestic legal framework for us to now be able to. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Wani. I will allow Mary. What is the role of journalists and content creators earlier on you said at least journalists have been behaving well. But we also seen a lot of journalists who are now, they're driving in Panya roads now. So what is the role of journalists and content creators? Like, are they causing more trouble or they are helping?
Okay. Let me first add a comment on the issue of the cyber security bill. You know, we are quiet about it now, and when we are caught off guard, you know, like many other African countries, and see there are some articles in that law which actually put all of us into issues, that is when we will start crying. But at this stage, when the National Communication Authority is looking for us to actually contribute to what is in that bill, we are quiet. I want to call on all of us to actually follow up this issue with the National Communication Authority so that we look into the bill early. And if there are areas that we see they will infringe on human rights, we raise them before time. But if we keep quiet now, when the bill comes out and then it is passed into law, we will be seeing it like the National Security Act that any of us doesn't want to sneeze, you know, because we know what the act is capable of doing. So that is one advice I could give. Let us put energy on that bill when it is still early. And then on the issues of journalists, you know, I have seen our journalists don't detach themselves from where they come from. And actually many people have been asking me for the past few months, where do I go now that the internet is polluted or the information ecosystem in general is polluted? It's a difficult question because when you go to the radio station and listen to them or you buy a newspaper, all you could see are press releases, press conferences, you know. This kind of soft journalism, it doesn't help because until now, if you follow the event in Nasir, there is no any journalist that is on the ground to give you factual information.
So there's no one who went to verify.
Exactly. You know? So we don't have journalists on the ground, and the reason why we who have always been in journalism, especially in newsroom, we advocate for what we call stringers or community correspondent, is when such situations happen. You don't need to send a journalist from Juba to an area like Nasir, but you should already have a journalist on the ground who can give you factual information. So what we are consuming now, most of the time is rumors. You know, it's rumors. Because the journalist even now cannot verify whether, because I was asking some of my colleagues the other day, not for bad, but what if the people, the journalism in me is asking me, what if the people SSPDF are bringing are not the soldiers who survive? This is reality in journalism. You would question yourself. You know, you need to be the one, you know, having access to that information, not a third party telling you that these are the survivors. You should be able to have a verified information that what I'm putting out in public is the reality.
But Mary, what if they say that we're intimidated? Like, I mean, I don't say they are, but what if someone says we're intimidated? I cannot, if I go and, you had incidents here in the past where journalists interviewed someone in opposition, and then the next thing they're in trouble. What if they say that? They say, like, you know, this space is not free for us.
Yes, that is why we advocate for freedom of expression and press freedom, you know. We can, and journalism, you know, the moment you choose journalism, you know that there are challenges into journalism. So if you based your career practice with those challenges that you are facing, you will not do anything. But if you are a factual journalist, because there is a difference between opinions journalist and factual journalist. If you are a factual journalist, by now you should have been having contacts with those who are in Nasir long time ago. I remembered in 2012, I could not go to Ajith to cover the war. But because some of the people I have been in communication with were already in Ajith, I could do live call with them and record correct information that none of the government spokesperson would deny that this is not what is happening in Ajith. So the real challenges that South Sudanese are facing now is, where do I get truthful information when the mainstream media cannot provide that? Where do I go? And this is why you have seen many people resorting to rumors. And Juba now, people, or South Sudan, especially Juba, I have witnessed, people believe in rumors. Even myself, when I hear rumor of people people running, I will also follow them. Because there would be no live broadcast. I remembered in 2016 when there were incidents in Torit. That is when I believed in the power of some of these community radio stations. Before some of these community members could leave, they marched into the Catholic Church compound where the radio was. And they were asking the reporters at the radio station, what information do you and the government have for us before we leave? And because there was no information at hand, they ended up running away, and that's how they were displaced into the refugee camps. But if at that particular time, and actually recently Journalists for Human Rights did a training with the government information on managing information during the time of crisis. This is where now there should be available information. It is not time to say, okay, you will give me 5 hours to call my commanders in the field to confirm what is happening. There should have been a link already whereby even these commanders can speak directly to the journalists. So this fear that has been instilled in our journalists is actually affecting freedom of expression.
Thank you so much, Mary, for that. As I promised earlier on, I'll open it up for questions. We want to have this as engaging as possible. This is a town hall. For everyone who is joining us online, this is a conversation on content moderation in South Sudan. From challenges to solution, we've been discussing the various issues impacting content in South Sudan, from insightful content, the issues of rumors, legal framework, absence of legal framework, international implications. And with us here, we have the Director General of the National Communication Authority, Engineer Napoleon Adok Gai. We have the Deputy Secretary General of the Bar Association, Wani, and Country Manager for Journalists for Human Rights, Mary Ajith. And they have been expressing various very contextual views on this topic. Now I'll allow our informed audience here to ask questions. I can see a lot of people from the community of practice. I can see Gama from the Internet Society, Vukeni from the Computer Incident Response Team for South Sudan. I see someone from Juba Echo TV. Okay, if I didn't mention it, doesn't mean I don't see you. I see all of you. So I will open it for questions. Do you have another mic? Okay, we have that one. Huh? Okay, super. So the rule for question is very simple. Make it concise. Ask one question. Say your name and which institutions you are from, and then ask your question. I mean, you can even not say where you work, but you can just say your question, and then it's directed to who. So we'll take about 3 questions. And then we'll have the panel answer the question. So, if I see a hand, I will direct the ushers for that. Okay, super. I can see a hand here. The gentleman in, okay. Where's the mic? Okay, there's someone there. Super. Let's see your name and your question. And who is it directed to?
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity. So, I'm James Mayen. So I'm part of Generation Connect Youth Envoy for South Sudan. So my question is going direct to the person from representative from the Bar Association concerning the intellectual property rights. So are there policies or maybe framework that are in place that protect people rights? Like, let's say, like for example, if I have maybe a kind of a company or maybe something that I'm working on, like an stuff, and maybe someone took it somewhere. So are there policies in place that protect such kinds of rights from some individuals in the country, or they are not there?
Okay, super. So أسئلة بكون كله بعربي وبإنجليزي لو في زول عنده سؤال please ارفع يدك والمايك بيجي لك هناك. Where is it? Okay. The gentleman who is standing here, yes, I'll give it to him.
Yeah, my name is Young. I'm going to speak in Arabic. My question is going direct to Mr. Napoleon. طبعا كنا بنحكي عن موضوع بتاع التواصل سوشيال ميديا وهو وسائل التواصل الاجتماعي. ممكن نشيل القضية بتاع ناصر كنموذج. في فترة كان عندنا بيت في مصر كان يتعرض له اغتصاب كويس. إذا عملنا الهاشتاج وعملنا فيديوهات وحاجات زي كده. أنا شخصيا كنت هنا شفت الحاجة عملت له شير لما عمل مشكلة للأكاونت عمل له ريبورت ده بيجي اوتوماتيك. سو أنا داير أعرف هل عندكم حاجات مثلا زي القضية اللي حصل المفروض تتدخلوا أي فيديو related to ناصر أو هاشتاج related to the issues of ناصر to stop it. في حاجات زي كده عشان اوريدي لو في حاجات زي كده يبقى ان الحاصل ده عنده طريقه ومفروض توقف انتوا. ده this is my question.
Okay. So just give. We'll take the third question here. Then we'll just here in the middle next to the camera.
Okay. مساء الخير. الاسم مجين شو مهامي. سؤال حقي هيكون دي جي مباشر. اتكلمتوا عن تحديات والحاجات الكثيرة اللي واجهة وسائل التواصل الاجتماعي بما فيها فيسبوك. سؤالي كالآتي: في بعض من الحاجات يعني يحصل يعني مساهمة من جهات حكومية غير مباشر في تعجيج تأثيرات مثلا. فمثلا زي قضية عناصر يعني المتحدث الرسمي بتاع الحكومة ممكن يقول حاجة وهنا الناس يقول حاجة نفس الأخبار ده بيوصل لناس في السوشيال ميديا. فأي زول بيشيل الخبر حسب الطريقة اللي قالوا بيه أو مثلا هو سياسي أو كده الاعتبارات الكثيرة إذا حسنية سياسية شنو. في انه الحاجات اللي بيقولوا مثلا حاجه قالوا مايكل ماكوي او قالوا ناس ايوه ولا كده بيساهم في تعجيج ذات بتاع الصراعات مثلا، وده جهات حكوميه في نفس الزمن. فانا داير اعرف انه مثلا الحاجات ده ممكن يتحكموا فيهم كيف، لانه كلهم بيجوا من نفس الجهات وبيوصل للمواطن انه اي زول جاي يقول انه ده الحقيقه. فهنا برضو في مشكله ذات في انه في التواصل الاجتماعي، لان انا بعمل شيء مثلا لحاجه قالوا مايكل ماكوي كناطق رسمي وده حاجه اوفيشال، مثلا حاجه قالوا مثلا متحدث رسمي باسم مكتب بتاع نائب رئيس مثلا كحاجه برضو اوفيشال. فالحاجات ده في تضارب كتير مثلا.
اوكي.
هل انتم متابعين للحاجات دي؟
اوكي خلاص كويس. كده خلي نجاوب للاسئله الثلاثه ده، يلا بعدين نجي. I think I'll just hand it to DG because no, let's start with you. These two questions are directly to you, and then we can then نمشي لواني.
You will remind me if I didn't get the Arabic one.
So the last question is basically asking, there is a lot of conflicting statements from official government officials.
Yes, I think I will start with that. But before I do that, I would like to make a statement. In all our discussion and what I've explained earlier, one thing that I want you to understand is that we cannot pretend to do content moderation of a system that is not located in the country. This is the first thing we must understand. So when we are talking content moderation here, we are talking as a third party to the owners. Okay, there is the owner and the users and then us in the middle. So we can, that's why I was explaining to you the process of submitting whatever you request for the owner of the platform to subject to their condition. Because for us, as government, we can identify this is wrong. We give it to them. They don't take it. They also have to subject to, they have to say yes or no. For example, during the incident of Medini, we were able to request bringing down more than 7,000 articles, including videos. Okay, they were able to bring down, I think, probably around 2,000 images that they removed. And then the others, they said they have put a blur. When you see some of those pictures, they put a blur. And for us, we said, no, this is not enough. You can actually even, the audio, what they have said there is even more painful than the image at some point. So these are kind of debate we have. To answer the question, my brother there was asking about giving example of Egypt, somebody got lost and they raised a campaign.
I think what he's saying is that there is a video of a lady who got raped.
Yeah.
And then he shared and tagged.
Yeah.
So he's saying, is there a way of aggregating when people use a hashtag, for example, Nasir something, to raise a plea for cry? Is there a way that NCA can aggregate those things and detect?
Yeah, I just want to recall back the function of NCA. You know, we limit ourselves specifically to general issues. We actually don't go to individual accounts and raise those issues because that come into media authority. My law, the one that I administered, does not actually go into content specific. They focus very much on general issues. So yes, there are ways you can raise that, but this is the user, at the user level, those who are using the system can actually advocate for that. You can create hashtag. There are no system that can be put in place to aggregate this directly. No, that would mean you establish a content moderation monitoring center that will do that and follow up. We don't have that. But we still want to create awareness so that the users themselves, like the way he explained that the role he played as individual. Imagine he could still play the same role, or any of us can explain. Many people don't understand they have so much power with their Facebook account, but they actually don't know how to use it. Sorry to say that. I realize many people only come to look at their pictures and go away. And then when they hear something, they just log off. But they actually have a power to also report it to the platform owners. And that's what he was actually raising at. So at our level as institution, we don't have that. But we would like to create awareness so that users are empowered with understanding to raise that. We have seen that incident several times.
Yeah. So the other gentleman, he's actually raised a very pertinent question.
Yes, I think
the government double speaks.
Yes, I think the only way to answer that, because I don't want to speak on behalf as a government spokesman. So why there are so many multiple messages? What we might do is to encourage that the government spokesman can all be put in one platform like this one day, and we ask them, which version should we do? There is actually the spokesman of the army, there is a government spokesman, my minister, there are spokesmen for different offices. I've even seen now the spokesman even for the Nasser County, they have their own, and then the Payam has their own spokesman. So I think the best is a question that I would be lying if I say I can answer. But what does that question explain to the rest of us is that which one is the official version? In this context, whatever the Minister of Information has said is always the final. The rest are usually irrelevant in that case, or there are sources to lead to that one. And I think once the minister has spoken, it is usually the minister that is treated as the mouthpiece of the government. In the army, they have a spokesperson that when he speaks, is actually the guy who says what the head of the army said, the Minister of Defense and the Chief of Defense Forces. So I am also conflicted the same thing. There are a lot of sources of information, what you are saying, and it is up to the viewers to select which one is the real source to follow. But of course, logically, the real source is the government, the minister.
I think on paper, there is the transitional government of national unity. Yeah. It's actually both IO and technically the Minister of Information is the spokesperson for RIAC also.
Yes, exactly, yeah. Yeah, that's what it is. And also for the army, the spokesman of the army is the one for the integrated force of the IO and the government. That's what in paper we all understand. But I don't want to go into that. I'm contented with my technical issues. So that one is a very open debate which is going on.
Okay, so
I don't want to be quoted on that.
Yeah, let's allow Wani to speak on the intellectual property, then we'll take more questions.
Okay. Intellectual property in South Sudan. One, just to be very short, we don't have a legal framework for that. We have a copyright bill that was developed some 2-3 years ago, but it's still on consultative stage. So we don't have a law that regulates that. We don't have a patent law. We don't have a trademark law. In 2015, in 2017, I remember the Ministry of Justice stopped the registrar of business names and companies in the Ministry of Justice from registering trademarks based on the Sudan law. Because previously, we used to register trademarks based on the Sudan law. We used to use the Sudan law to, continue with trademark registration in some of the areas that South Sudan have no legal framework. However, that was stopped with the very legitimate claim that there is a bill that is being developed. However, until now, we have not yet seen that bill. So that is the answer for that. But I want to also say this is a complete different conversation, which is not part of that. But it's good to just provide highlight. I want to just add something to the colleague here have asked in regards to him sharing something and then hashtag and all that. You know, sometimes there will be a video that is problematic. And us thinking that we want to condemn that video, we're also sharing the video and then putting some, you know, yes, we are in our statement, we are condemning it, but we're also, you know, circulating the video. So that by itself is also a problem because now you're making this video accessible to more or to wider people. So if we want to condemn something, don't also take the same thing, you know, and also, you know, give access to other people to also look at it. So this is just something that I wanted to add.
Okay, so let's take more questions. The mic was here, so I'll go to the gentleman from Juba Echo, then Gamma, and then I'll come to Animu. Yeah. Next to the camera. Just as I remind you, make your question concise and topical so that we don't deviate. We have less than 15 minutes on this platform so that we can finish.
Thank you. My name is Walter Solomon. I know sometimes maybe Facebook will be shut down, maybe in command of the government. But what I'd like to ask is to know about negligence of informing the citizens of incoming dangers. If in case citizen dies, maybe in Juba, yet there's an incoming incident, incoming dangers, and there's a failure by the government or by authority to inform the public, yet Facebook can help in case there's collateral damages and people die. You know, also government is always slow. They don't want to inform the public. Many things they're not responding well. Now my question is to both of you. May you help? Is there any accountability that the government can take or can help them to be accountable for this? Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Let's hand the mic to Gamma.
Thank you. My name is Joseph Gama, and I work with the Internet Society. So when the conversation of safety online is there, it's something which is important to us. Thank you for organizing this, Nelson. My question is, what drawing experiences from the neighboring countries, what sort of tools or what are they doing that we're not doing? Napoleon gave a context that Facebook and whatever is based in California, but then what powers, what tools do we have that we can use to do some of these things? And secondly, question 2 is we have the cybersecurity law and the data protection law that is there. What actionable things, I think all the stakeholders are here that can drive and push this thing forward. What can we do? It has been sitting somewhere for a very long time.
It's with the committee now. I think it's with the Parliamentary Information Committee, right?
It has been there for a while. Yeah.
I will give.
Okay.
Yeah. Those are my questions.
Yeah. Let's have in front seat here, front row, Animu, and then we can.
Thank you very much. Mine is somewhat related to what Gama asked. I thought maybe for the NCA and also the Bar Association, in the interim, while we are waiting legislative action on the bills, what can be done, because there is no early warning, or at least there's some early warning that has been shared, but there's no sort of protectionism that is happening to protect people from the early warning. So are there instruments, let's say African Union instruments or international instruments, that you can trigger to protect consumers, but also to take some of those actions? Because between 22nd of January and now, when people are asking why is it being shut down, and now when the opinion has changed to please shut down, is there nothing that can be done in the interim responding to the situation to avoid danger but to also protect consumers? Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I think we'll start with DJ and then we'll go to Wani. Most of the questions on early warning and also the legal framework.
Yeah, I think first, before I answer those, I maybe need to give you an update on where is the cybersecurity law. First of all, cybersecurity law was issued as a provisional order, I think in May 2022 or 2023 there. And as a provisional order is a law that is authorized by the president before the parliament, when parliament is not there. So that when the parliament resumes, that law is prioritized. So when parliament resumed, the law was brought, but it was brought late, and the parliament threw it out, that it has to be redrafted again as a bill. So that means that law ceased to operate. It was taken out to become a bill from its form of provisional. When it was taken out, NCA and many other stakeholders came together to prepare sensitization for the lawmakers. Because this is entirely cybersecurity, it required a lot of awareness on the issues that are on. And we brought people on board from other, including telecoms and the people in the sector. We also actually brought on board lawyers, and we sent my friend here with some MPs to East Africa to do benchmarking. This was our contribution in order to accelerate the cybersecurity law, because it does a lot to do with what I am doing. And since then, the Parliament actually has done the first reading, and now the second reading is expected in this next Parliament that is opening. We've been working with the Parliamentary Select Committee on ICT to make sure that this law is given priority. And we also raised it with all our stakeholders, including our ministers, to say this law needs to be expedited, to address these emerging issues. So the concern is adequate, and the process is actually almost completed. So what is remaining now, if Parliament resumes, I am sure it is going to be tabled for the second reading, and hopefully there will be no issues so that it can be passed into law. But the data protection law is still in the bill form. It was last time sponsored by the civil society. Again, as a key stakeholders, the NCA contributed by calling together the people in the sector, the telecom companies, the internet companies, the civil society for validation. And we made our input into it. What is now not done, we don't know where it is, whether it has reached Parliament or it is still with the civil society that was advocating for it. And I remember it was the last time we meet in the seniors, that was the last I heard of it. So that law also is on the way, and we expect that it needs to go together with cybersecurity law, because they have a lot to do together. On the international issues, South Sudan is a member of African Union Charter on data protections, and we are also we are signatories to Malabo protocol, which outline data protections. So what has remained is actually ratification. So there are international instruments that are there, but we still need to domesticate them so that we can practice them in our.
Why has it not been ratified?
Well, I don't know, because it's, of course, for you to ratify it, you need to also take the content and put it in your law. So I believe something is going on. Maybe Molana will explain to us why the ratification taking long. But on my part, as a civil servant, I have just continued to push for the demanding for these laws to be availed quickly, because the country digital ecosystem is growing. We have mobile money, we have gambling going on, we have now e-banking, mobile banking. Many of you are receiving update every time your bank, you withdraw, you get messages. Are you really protected? Is that information coming from the bank or from somebody in the middle? So there's a lot of things that make us to push so that it is done. And my job is to create that awareness so that the consumers are protected. And these are instruments of protecting consumers right now. So this is what I can answer. The other question was...
There was a question on negligence, and then issues to do with early warning. And I think that question both...
First of all, I wanted to rephrase what Molana said earlier, that South Sudan did not shut down the internet and did not shut down the entire social media. South Sudan only shut down a specific program application, which is now Facebook. So in the context of blocking people from expressing themselves, it can only apply when there is absolutely no other means of communicating. But the fact that it is only one component that was shut down for a specific period, there are other social media and other means of communication available to the public to communicate. So we have not created a blanket shutdown. The other guy was talking about the liability aspect of it. Of course, the liability always have contractual. So when you say license, it's actually from liability. So somebody take responsibility. So for us, we cannot rule out that there are people who maybe have built their business context using a free platform, which is not registered in our country. And that's why we try to demand now this big platform to actually have recognized offices here so that issues of liabilities are addressed. And so that when there are issues like this, there are parties that can engage and resolve them. And I think since January, we made a significant progress in level of engagement with Meta. Our relation in January and our relation today are totally different. We are communicating with them daily. We are submitting requests. Some requests are taking long. We do know, of course, there is one issue we have left out. There are individuals who has actually set up social media to propagate propaganda deliberately. Okay, they even monetize it. They are paid, and so that they can publish negative article against X and Y. We have now raised those complaints because those people are not just they are not spreading disinformation. They are actually doing deliberate misinformation using the platform. And we have cataloged this, and Meta is working on these things, and they will give us feedback. And we have all the evidence. The good news is that whatever they've been publishing all these years is there, and it is to speak. And there are so many victims in this town that has been reported, sometime apologized to, like myself several times, and many other people. So we have also raised that now that we are engaging with the matter. How do we tackle these people? Because where does it, because it breaks the law clearly. And this one, they do it deliberately. They send out information that really they themselves know, and they are being paid. So there is different layers of what we complain to. There, you might have heard here about our brother, Garang John. Some people attributing that the NCA has failed to rein in Garang John. It is not our work because we don't deal in content. Garang John also is not in Juba, he is outside. So if Garang John raised something, we do it like any, we don't deal with individual. We raise the complaint to the Meta to say this particular application. Actually, we don't know Garang John. We only know the account, unless there are evidence to attach it to him, because anybody here can actually make themselves Garang John. And we have seen so many Facebook which has impersonated prominent individual. But of course, that does not mean this page is not Garang John. It could be him, could not be him, but that is none of my business.
Do you think Garang John needs to be reined in a bit?
Well, he must be, because whatever he's doing is really damaging to the country.
To what extent, maybe?
Yeah, because, you know, freedom of expression, I think Mary would be the best person to explain as a journalist, because Garang John is a member of Journalists Union of South Sudan. So
we have anyone from you just here?
Yeah, she is a journalist. So as a journalist, he knows, Garang John knows what he's doing. And that's why he is to be held liable. Even after all this crisis, there are people I met in this town with the law, with the court order. They are looking for him. So even if he make peace with government, there are people here, that individual, that are waiting to do that. You know, because the good news that he doesn't write in a pseudonym, he write in his name. So it's very easy.
But why do you think, and that's something that I usually expound about, why do you think he's, for whatever reason, his content is catching so much fire?
Yeah, because he has built a persona using a national broadcaster. If he was somebody from his village, nobody would have bothered. But somebody who was on our national TV every day, take for example Rejoice. How many of us knows Rejoice with Decrease?
Yes.
Yeah, so she has built that persona. So if he has built that persona, certainly people knows the name. Of course, many people don't agree with his content. And it is also something, if we all want Garang John to shut up, we all can complain to Meta. All of us. All the followers, he has 60-something thousand followers. If half of them, 20,000 of them report to Meta, tomorrow Garang John will be off. Doesn't need us. So there is, this is the responsibility we have raised with the matter. There are so many people like Garang John doing that, what they are doing. And many people actually, a lot of our people disagree with what he's doing.
Do you think there is a business for dissent? or like respectful dissent or critical dissent of the government while someone is still in Juba or in South Sudan?
Yeah, I think that is not my domains, but I would say there are critical dissent that are happening in South Sudan. To some extent, I think there are experts here. I'm reserved to speak because these two people are, this is their business.
Yes, yes.
But there are dissents. But of course, what Garang John has done has gone beyond dissent because targeting individual personalities. And we all know about it, it's not a secret. Okay, issuing information that sometimes has caused panic, you know, to the public. So we know the line, Nelson, when what is news and what is deliberate disinformation and what is this, whatever he does it, Garang is online, he can be reached, he will talk about it. But I want to say there are chances for dissents here, there are traditional media, there are people here sharing their opinion. Sometimes I read very critical article written by people who have put their name on it. They are not concerned citizens like the others. Yeah.
There is someone who wrote something very, very in support of you and is also concerned citizen.
That is the only time when concerned citizen is useful. I don't know why.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much. I think let's allow Wani to say something and then.
Okay. Thank you so much, Kwaje. Number one, what can be done in the interim time? This is what I think Animo had asked. And DG have, you know, highlighted the fact that there is regional legal framework, but needs to be, you know, domesticated. I would also add, as a form of regulatory approach as well, we could also, you know, our laws have this beautiful, it's a beauty and a curse at the same time, right? It's a blessing and a curse at the same time. It gives ministries basically the right to have regulations and policies. And I think this is something that the NCA has been, in regards to this particular topic, they've been using it in other topics. There is a lot of regulations that NCA has put forth that regulates aspect of you know, the industry that is not clearly provided in the law. And I feel like the regulator in this particular topic have been taking cautious. They don't want to, you know, they don't want to use that, you know, and this is power that they have. As a lawyer, I understand, because also, you know, the huge discussions on freedom of speech, but I just want to say that this is something that the regulator can also, the regulator or the ministry can also explore. It is effective. It doesn't go through this, you know, there's a lot of bureaucracy in coming up with the law, you know, especially when, you know, all these different institutions are involved. So this is something that we can also explore in the interim time. And as the Bar Association, we are willing to provide the technical support and the human resource that would be, you know, ready to you know, to assist the regulator into how do we, you know, have a law that would be, have a regulation that will be best for the public interest. So this is one. The second thing, ratification process, it's more of procedures. And we have a lot of regional and international instruments that have not been ratified because Ministry of Foreign Affairs is supposed to, you know, stakeholders supposed to lobby with Ministry of Foreign Affairs to push for some of these instruments to be ratified. But I think a lot of us do not, you know, take an active role. We are not proactive. We want to sit and we want to complain, but we don't push for certain things to happen. So this is a challenge to all of us that, you know, let's take our role, let's identify if there is an international instrument that South Sudan have signed and have not yet ratified, and it's directly, you know, affecting or directly, you know, involve our industry, let's push for it. Let's go to Ministry of Justice. They have a directorate. Let's push them. How do you do this? So this is something that I would add. And then...
let's hear from Mary.
Yes, let me stop here.
Mary, tell us about one of these, your member, Garang John.
So, I would first denounce Garang John that he is no longer a member of our community as journalist since the time he declared himself to be an opinion writer. So what I would say to someone like the DG is that you have a propaganda warfare with Garang John that is doing online. And actually it is the responsibility of the government, because not only is Garang John the one using the internet to fight the government, but there are other rising voices, even those who are in South Sudan, that question the credibility of the government. I have to be honest on my own role. That gives a question of, is government doing right or not? And these are some of the issues that the spokespersons can speak into. And also, not all the information online is bad, by the way, because these online platforms are also being used to hold government into account. So there are bad contents online, but there are other good contents that are actually helpful in terms of check and balances, which the members of civil society can pick up and use this to lobby the government to develop some policies that can help in terms of service delivery and all that. So anyone who have chose the direction of propaganda and warfare with the government no longer actually count as a practicing journalist. But then, before then, Garang John was our member.
Is there a way for him? Is there a way for redemption for him?
Because as he clearly put, and that is one way to tell you that Garang John was previously a professional journalist, because whatever he does, he put a disclaimer on who can address it. So he has always been putting a disclaimer that he doesn't want anybody in between here to intervene. What is happening is between him and the president, and it is only the president who can summon him and they dialogue. So he really put out his issues there. I don't want to speak for him, but anybody who have been reading his article, he has clearly put a way forward on what can be done. And I would also want to caution us as members of the civil society and the journalists, you know, when Gama asked about the experiences we can get from other countries. In Kenya, after the 2007 post-elections violence, we saw rise in hate speech, disinformation, and what happened was that the members of the civil society came together and started some campaigns, you know, which create awareness on the dangers that hate speech can lead to the country. So instead of putting out those campaigns in the name of your communities, why don't we come together and create awareness campaigns whereby we shut down some of these voices? Even when I said that journalists have denounced some of these colleagues, we have not done it officially, which is also infringing on our rights now, because if anyone see me, they will think I will also become like other colleagues in case.
I think, but the issue here is that as soon as you say, like, I think Garang John, you missed a comma here, someone say, kill supporter.
Yeah. Yeah, you know. So the fact remains that we have to take responsibility because we are literate. But most of the people who are dealing also with the digital platforms are illiterate. So that illiteracy is where when you go to TikTok, you will see the high level of illiteracy. Because somebody would just wake up, because their time zones is different from that of South Sudan, all they think about is to come and attack someone. And I have a friend one day who I went to court with because of defamation. It was very hard. The problem with internet doesn't forget. So denying that she didn't do what she has been doing was very hard because everything was printed out. And because she was outside, she thought nobody will find her. But she came to South Sudan after all. So whether you come to South Sudan in a casket or you still come with your 2 legs, you know, these cases exist. Because if you come in a casket, still people will discuss the issues you have been doing during your funerals. You know, if you come with your 2 legs, the court is waiting for you. So it's a matter of thinking about the future of our country. Yeah. And I would take this back to the issue of our social fabric, you know, which is totally destroyed, that when we sit here, we look like we are real South Sudanese. But wait, when you open your door and enter inside, I would be surprised that Animu is sending information that I would be questioning myself. Is that the Animu I know or not? Somebody will be asking, is that Mary or not? Because if my community is attacked, that is the only attachment I know. And by the way, even these young people who are doing that, they did not grow up here. They didn't know their communities. They were respecting the laws of the countries they grew up in. How comes that when you are in South Sudan, you can't actually feel the need for national unity. So as we move out here, let us think about things that can unite our people. And one thing that we can take out is, let us start creating this hashtag. I will not advocate for a hashtag of please shut down the internet, no way. We need it alive. But I would create hashtag of please stop sharing hate speech, please stop sharing disinformation, so that our voices can count and our freedom of speech, our freedom of expression and media freedom will not be infringed on. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mary, for that elaborate. I will take just, add to that.
Yeah, Nelson, I just wanted to highlight a very important point that we have skipped in our discussion. First of all, we don't regulate content as national communication. In our country, we have another entity called Media Authority, which regulate content. So when you talk about issues of content, the main entity is Media Authority. But of course, because of the convergence of technology these days, most of the region and globally, the telecommunication regulation is also a member of the content regulation.
I think that's the case in Kenya.
That is how, no, everywhere, most of the time, because of your phone is sometimes a telephone, a television, a broadcasting. So there is a lot of stuff that happen there, and that's why they are together. But what I want to say also that we work very closely with the Media Authority, and they have tried their best, actually, including even this engagement with the Meta. We have actually brought them on board, and they are engaging with us to make sure that to cite what laws has been broken. So that, because that's what Meta want to see, that you are not just waking up in your country and say shut down that page. You have to cite not just the page, they actually what has been posted. And I didn't know that it was such a tedious job. When I used to hear you people define do that, I never knew until when I was listening to them and I realized it's a full-time job. It's a full-time job to monitor and to catalog what people have posted. You report per a post, because if Nemo posts all the good things, the day she posts something bad that we feel, we report that. It doesn't mean a Nemo page will be shut down. They will remove only that. Unless a Nemo continue to do this, then they have their own mechanism to determine when this violation has become so frequent, this account goes down. So there are processes. So I just wanted to highlight that when you are talking about developing regulation. Of course, we develop regulation from my side to focus on the technology. To focus on the technology, that's where we develop the regulation. Now, to focus on content, then it goes into the domain of the Media Authority. So maybe we should have had somebody.
Thank you so much. Actually, that's something that Mary.
Yeah, the funny thing was, because Media Authority was monitoring the rise of hate speech online in January, on the 22nd, between 10 to 12, they were holding a press conference, sharing their statement on how people should be cautious on issues of hate speech and misinformation. And then in the evening hours, NCA shut down. so Media Authority was actually caught off guard, because for them they were coming out to caution the public, while NCA in the evening, because they have the control over the platforms, they took the action to take away the tools. And these are some of the issues that I'm happy you are already coordinating your activities, so that next time we don't read the cautious information and then again in the evening we are surprised that you cannot use.
So next time they'll tell them, no need, we will, yeah. So I think, so this is actually because I work in this area of, actually, let me say, I think we were the first people to start doing content moderation in coordination with Meta. And one of the things that, that people don't understand is Meta has an approach. They take action based on content, and they deal with every content separately. So a lot of time people actually take, as humans, we look at people and say, this is a bad person, shut down the page. Because Meta, they're in business of actually content. So for example, if someone does a violation, that's why at times you see someone, I am locked for 24 hours. I am locked for a week. I am prevented from commenting. Because what Meta does, they actually want to reform the user. So the actions are actually made in a way they see every user as a redeemable person. So when you're blocked for 24 hours, the idea is that this 24 hours is enough for you to learn. Not as soon as you're gotten out of jail, you immediately do the same thing. So these are the kind of things that they take action on. And they have some things that they say they take action also on behavior at times, not content. So behavior, it looks at what kind of behavior are you doing. Like for example, creating 2 accounts with the same email. Or at times when you sit in one place, you create about 20 accounts from the same IP address. That is called action on a behavior. That's what when they call a CIB, coordinated inauthentic behavior or inauthentic behavior. So those are the kind of things that Meta takes actions on. And the other thing that we also need to highlight, it's not about insults. Insults actually, as much as they are bad, they don't constitute violations of a lot of these community standards. So at times people say, why is this person insulting? Meta doesn't look at the insult. They look at, is it attacking any protected characteristics, age, gender, sex, ethnicity, and stuff like that. So if I say you go out of here, you Nuer or you Dinka, Meta will not take this thing. But if I say I add a word like cow or I add something like that, it will also take about that. And it's a very tricky thing because they look at times like, okay, if I compare you to an animal, is this animal considered honored or dishonored in your society? So if I say a lion, you are like a lion, that content, they need to look at it, a lion is actually a good description. But if I say I compare you to a rat or a cockroach, they say that one what is dehumanizing. So it's a very, very tricky topic. They really need to toe the line in a very, very clear way. And I really encourage, I think Tony is here. He leads the incident response at SafetyCom at the back. So many people, they look at very, very intricate descriptions of these things to find out. And I see a lot of Junubian coming into this office and going out very disappointed. So that is the level of splitting hairs that at times people have to deal with.
And those, what Nelson is describing is now, imagine worldwide, they have to classify it for each country, what are the values. And that's what they call community standard for each country. We agree, these are the terms we will use, these are the terms we will, now we are debating when we are trying to add in MTN, they said MTN is a company, but we said no, it's a code name for a certain ethnic group in our country. Yeah. And they cannot understand, they cannot understand, okay? And if you try to explain to them Nuerweo, they could not understand what is Nuerweo. So these are things, that's why you have, each country has to build their own vocabulary of things that you find offensive. Okay? For example, for a Dinka to be compared to a cow is not a problem. Yeah. But you do that with somebody from Kenya, you will have a problem.
Yeah. I think it's a very evolving conversation, and I think, like for example, 91. When we talk about 91, we say when someone says 91, the implicit rejoinder is that they're actually calling for some types of revenge or some type of a recounting a history that has a very clear connotation. When someone talks of 91, they're referring to a certain thing. So we have to put a context, say like, hey, actually when someone says we need to do something like 91 or this reminder us of 91, they're talking a very specific thing that happened in Bor, or when they say 2013, like every year on the 15th of December, we have a serious issue in this country because we have not have a consensus on our history. Someone says 15th of December, we will never forget. And someone says, so you know what, 15th of December is like 91. So it's a lot of discussions. And I think last time when we did the commission for Angelo Beda, what was it called? The National Dialogue. The National Dialogue really fell short of going further to now. We had the recommendations, but we didn't know what to do with it. In Kenya, they had the Truth, Justice and Reconciliation Commission. The reports of it up to now has not been implemented. But as a country, there is a lot of work that we need to do, and I think that's why it's good to have these discussions. I'll take one more question or two, and then we'll close it with this question, and then that will be the end of the evening. We have one online question. So let's have the mic here, and then there is a hand on that side. Yes, here the gentleman we'll take this question, and then we'll take the question there, and then the one online, and we'll close.
Thank you so much for the chance. My name is Umar Musa, journalist. Just I have two questions direct for the state. The first question, as we know, journalists always mediate between society and government. I think they are responsible for raising awareness to the society or community. Do you think that's a good idea to force media houses or to train journalists regularly, as every week or after 2 weeks or a month? And the second question is, what difference between misinformation and disinformation? Thank you.
Thank you so much. There is a hand there in the corner. The gentleman in white.
Thank you. I am Goch. My first question will go to Madam Journalist. Madam, there are media giants.
Journalists. Some of them are officers. You might find them in National Security Service. There are senior officers. And as well also they might be in the police also as senior officers. And you find them also as chief editors in certain leading newspapers. And on their personal accounts, they are also spreading disinformation or trying to get a tie to particular individuals or particular figures that are powerful in the government. And these are chief editors, the officers in the National Security Service, and as well also maybe police officers, also senior police officers. And this is an individual. What does your regulations as the Union of Journalists says about such kind of characters? That's number one. And I wish also the member or the board member of the media authority was here, because some of the questions should be directly going to media authority. So I wish these events would have been organized in the presence of the individual that is important from the media authority. Because from what I'm learning, media authority is the one that should be, has most of the questions about this content moderation. So we are asking my brother Adok some of the questions that is not supposed even to be answering, because most of the questions are supposed to go directly to media authority. That's number one.
Okay. That's number two actually. That's number two. So I'll go to the next.
Just wait. Just like my last one for Adok and the gentleman from Bar Association. I would also wish the member of the committee from the National Parliament should be here, because the Bar Association is not an authority body. It's just an association. An associations of the union, of the professionals, of lawyers. So regardless of whatever he knows, regardless of all the regional, regulations and international regulations, you are not even in a position to be answering some of the questions that are supposed to be asked to you. They should be asked to the member of parliament, representative of the committee, specialized committee that represent the parliament, that is in charge of the media, of the telecommunication authority and media authority. So my question will go, my suggestion will go to my brother Adok. Most of us were born and grew up at a time when we didn't have gadgets, we didn't have phones, we didn't know anything. But currently we are having a generation that is very .com. The kids begin using phones and having access to internet and content before they even speak. Okay? And as such, as somebody that is running a very vital institution, you need to push these people from the national parliament, from the media authority, so that at least laws are put in place to protect people. We are at a very dangerous situation, a dangerous era, where a single information like this can spark the entire country. The entire country will go to war. And as such, we have to hold people accountable. And we also need to be inviting masses or having some kind of moderation at a place where masses will come. For example, University of Juba. Where a lot of people will come and consume some kind of content so that they are aware of what is going on and they can also contribute. Okay. So to me, I will thank you, and I think I will stop here. But next time, you invite some kind of institution so that the relevant questions I directly ask, goes to them.
I think, thank you for that. I really want to take a pulse check here. He's saying, and this I've been hearing this a lot. A lot of people are saying like, there's some type we are at a very critical place where a piece of information can actually lead this country to violence. Is that a sentiment that a lot of people here share by show of hands? How many of us think that, yeah. Do you think that there is a piece of information that can, if shared, can lead this country to war? Yes. Let me hear from this gentleman here. Why do you think so?
You know, it's funny you should say that, because just 2 days ago, the funeral of the late general that passed away in Nasser was held. And for those of you who are very tentative to social media, you'd realize some of the speech that came out of that event were not necessarily positive. Because saying things like revenge and advocating for mobilization to do harms or negative activities toward a certain community doesn't really condone peaceful coexistence for our people, does it? So such information immediately is reached social media. What do you expect? People will, of course, have opinions, people will take sides, people will even take actions on their own accord because they have heard what the opposite side, as it is stated, have said. So it's crucial to understand that such information, once surfaced, obviously they're going to cause a stir.
Anyone else who wants to speak on this topic? On why do you think that pieces of information can lead to war in this country? By show of hands. You already spoken. Maybe I can come to this side here and I hear from the lady, because this is a sentiment that I've been hearing a lot. People will say we're at the brink, we are at the edge of the cliff. Maybe I can hear from here and then from just a very specific opinion on this.
Maybe I can give a recount. I think it was 2016, whereby there was, I think there was that J1 incident.
That Facebook post.
Yes, the Facebook post would trigger, I mean, if you even though not fully, but the context of what was happening at a particular time can trigger something.
Yes. Can trigger violence, yeah. Okay. Let me just hear from Animu, then the lady at the back. The lady close to the, yeah.
I mean, briefly, on 7th of July 2016, I was with a colleague at the British Council, and so we decided to come and work from my house, which is not so far away from J1. And within 10 seconds, you know, they started shooting, and so he had to stay in my house and in my compound. So it was really from 0 to 100. And a similar incident happened, I think, the morning of when it was announced that the general had been killed and the attack on the UN. And then the Minister of Information called for an urgent press conference. I was with journalists and they said, you know, this is a repeat. This is like a literal...
So people are feeling that, going to that press conference.
Like a literal repeat of what happened in 2016. We don't know what is going to happen because in between the time, I think the request for the urgent press conference was like 2 hours before 3 p.m. And in between that time, there was like 4 different press conferences from different sides. Like it was almost like deja vu, a similar scenario of what Gadet had been saying, James Gadet had been saying on his Facebook page, and what was being said at J1, and who was there, and who was going, and what time were they going, and who do we know, what if it's a trap to keep those people inside, so that, but it was really, people were debating, should we go for this press conference or should we not? People were packing, they were calling their people, where are you? Can you hurry back home? Hurry now, go home. What are you still doing in town? And it was like happening in our presence, you know?
Yep.
So really.
Let me hear from Tap, then the lady at the back.
Okay, yeah, this is a very sensitive topic, and I think it's good that people are coming up with it. So my area is that, you know, there are these people, when they hear something from social media or maybe they have seen some videos circulating, they can take law into their hand. Because even nowadays, I was really surprised. In Twitter, there have been some professional guys who have been posting very nice. But when this incident happened, they're even looking at their neighbor. Like someone is saying that just if your neighbor is nowhere, go and do just see them in different ways. So I was like, what is this?
You with one eye open.
Yeah, so one eye open, something like that. So I don't know, this thing happened in Nasser, and there is, you know, it's complicated actually. So we cannot like look at maybe your friend who have been your friend, and then you're looking at him a different way. What is this?
So people's minds have to change.
Yeah. So, you know, it's very complicated actually.
Is there anyone else? Okay, the lady at the back, yeah.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity. I'm Rufina Isaac. I just want to say on the information sharing, look for instance, the issue of what it fueled a lot of violence among the communities, especially in South Sudan. It caused those content that been shared online. It like fueled a lot of violence in South Sudan, and it caused so many fears to Sudanese who are here in Juba. There's a lot of lootings happen, and then, you know, those incidents that happen here. This is a very example that recently happened. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I really want to close. I'm seeing a gentleman who controls a very huge platform. I actually want him to speak. I am seeing Mariak there. Mariak is the founder of Hot in Juba. I can say, to be honest with you, I really need to give him a lot of credit. You know, he's, no. You know, Hot in Juba, I mean, people used to look at it as a very fringe kind of, borderline a kind of extremist platform, but it has actually really reformed. It's one of the reasonably balanced publications right now. Mariak, when people are saying this country is, any piece of information can lead this country to violence, or it's at the brink, or some. How do you see that from where you sit or stand, rather?
Okay, thank you, Nelson. I actually just came. I wanted to attend this earlier, but for some reason I forgot. Then a while ago, I just saw the live stream on the Seniors Hub, so I just rushed. So I've not really been following the conversation, but I believe everybody knows that misinformation can lead to a lot of things. It can cause violence, just like everybody else has said here, and this is why this kind of conversation is very important to make people use the social media in a very responsible way. Yes.
What do you see now? Like before, there used to be very few pages. Some of the pages that we see right now, not all in Juba, the ones that are popping recently, they're like borderline guns out kind of pages. I'm seeing this 211th century. When you see these things, 64 tribes, there is TMZ. When you see these things, what do you think of?
You see, with the moderation on the matter, it's very hard for the government to control all of this. And I think it's a duty of everybody that loves peace to use the social media responsibly. That is all I can say.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Let me give the mic to Akau Jambo, this side. You know what? I think this is a very healthy way of having a conversation here. So let's hear.
Thank you so much. I think what I'm just gonna comment about is the issue. First of all, a big shout out to everyone that's up there. You guys have been doing good throughout the whole time. The issues of this country are very complex. There are some things you cannot handle. Let's go with the things we can and move on from the rest. I think when we talk about the issue of a piece of information causing an issue in this country, I totally agree with that, but I think what we need to look at is what information are we talking about and where is it coming from, those two things. And in the past few years, South Sudan has faced something that I call a cancer, and this is what caused the issue at Nasser. According to my own analysis, there is a huge leakage of government business. We don't have anything that is confidential anymore. Like, you can be in Iraq and you find somebody holding a document, Ministry of Petroleum confidential. Why is it here? If it is confidential, why is it here? There is a huge leakage of government, and I was talking about this yesterday on my show. For every article in the Constitution of South Sudan, you have a cousin that can get you out of it. There's always a cousin that has that information that will call you people before the government communicates and says they are coming for you. Go home. And if you look at the issue of Nasser, what happened in Nasser is the government is saying, the SSPDF headquarters are saying that in Nasser it was not disarmament, it was a change of guard, let's say, yeah. But what happened in Nasser? Somebody took pictures of officers on a boat going to Nasser and said they are doing what? They are coming to take your guns. So what did the people there do? A preemptive strike. And in South Sudan, we are all living on two things. We're living on self-defense and preemptive strike. Because we have not addressed the past issues. And this is what happens when you actually have a dialogue and have a national conversation as a country. This is where we now move on, and I don't have to look out for myself. So we still have even 1991, people are still quoting that. My aunties and uncles from Bor, they still wait. They say, no, we will never forget 1991. There is 2013. There is what. There is still preemptive strike for that, and that is why when we don't have confidential means, there are some institutions that I hugely respect for the way they conduct business. There's an institution in Jebel that I won't mention their name. You will never see their business leak like that. You leak it, you see. It is you will see yourself. But there's a one here. Always leaking. There's another one here which is in the middle of the city. And the people who are leaking this information are people that don't really understand the harm that they're creating with this. Take, for example, the 2005 crash when we lost our president. Does any of you know what happened in that plane? Because if you don't know what this country will turn into. Some things should not be sent out. If you see this will create a huge damage, keep that. And this is why we have institutions that are supposed to take that. So I also commend the DG here. He runs a great institution as well that hasn't practiced in a lot of leakage. I think though the shutdown leaked. I don't know, your people betrayed you.
The shutdown leaked 30 minutes ago.
Yeah, it leaked. But also maybe the people who look for information are doing well now. They have broadened their aspects.
Yeah.
And then on the side of the disinformation, to support Mariak on what Mariak is doing, and I have had several conversations with Mariak as well on the type of content that he puts up and everything. What is happening right now is that the media is being used as a lobbying platform. So all these 211 Century Reporter you see and everything, the people they put messages, they write things, and the first thing that I ask myself, so you were there when they were saying that?
There is something right currently happening in this hotel.
Yeah.
3 people met.
So and so told, so and so said I will not do it. I'm like, so you were there when they were saying that. That's the first thing I told myself. But they put that information, the point is not for you to believe it. Just plant a seed of doubt. That's all. And unfortunately, there are people in higher places that listen to this. They act based on this, and this is why these institutions, these pages will continue thriving. You get the point? Unless we stop that aspect where people receive from where they rely on such information. Yeah, that's all I have to say.
Thank you so much. I think that's to answer this. Let me give it to Mary. And I think that is a very interesting about the leak. It was a very interesting thing. Someone was giving me a phone call from a very inside place. You know, there is something, I'm giving it to you. It is very, very confidential. Facebook might be shut down and what. As I'm talking to him, I'm seeing the letter all over Twitter. And it's already on Larry Madowo's page. And I'm reaching out to the DG, and I'm seeing all this like it's in real time. So it's a very, and you know, at first I used to be very naive by the way. I used to be like into everything should be shared. But after some time, I just realized, you know, some of this information at times, it is like if you go to the restaurant, and then you are seeing, if you go to traditional restaurants, or these restaurants in Malaki and what, sometimes you eat the food very nicely, but if someone tells you to go to these women and see the kitchen, you might say like, so this is how they make the fondue, this is how they, yeah. So sometimes it is actually, they're not stepping on it, but definitely it is not Radisson Blue. Sometimes it is good for you to consume the food, as opposed to you going all the ingredients one by one. So it's very good at times, confidentiality and secrecy. Government has the monopoly of power, and government has the monopoly of secrecy, because all this information are kept, so that at times some people are really prevented from some things. At times even the government can shake hands with people. If they tell you that the government is shaking hands with you, you will not believe. But for the sake of the common good, they do these things at times. So I will allow Mary to comment. And I think I would rather like say this is actually a very good dialogue. People are expressing their views in a manner that actually promotes multiplicity of opinions. So I'll allow Mary to share views and also the DJ and everyone else to answer with their just final remarks as we conclude.
Okay, so thank you, Aka, for bringing that up, because it really goes back to the issue of laying a strong institutional foundation. Because if we have a strong institutional foundation, we will not go to the point where employees of the government, because this doesn't come from anywhere else. I remember there was one document shared with a with a thumb of a lady. Her thumb was in a paper. You could see that is a lady because of the nails. You know, obviously, you know, if there was a strong institutional foundation, you could search whoever have those nails, you know. Literally, you could do that, because if there is work ethics and contractual agreement that are still valid, then that office can actually form a disciplinary committee, or the person can actually be sacked from the position. But now, how can you sack people you are not paying, you see? So people are now taking advantages of those, of those challenges that the government is going through to do whatever they want. And the question is, what can you do to me? Because it's like you don't have control over them. You know, the contractual agreement is that you pay the person and the person gives the service. But now we have people who give the service and they are not being paid. So they look for other means of survival. And these crooks ways of survival in the government is costing us a lot, because some documents, there are documents who have helped us, like when this issue of 2027, that our oil is sell out up to 20, it was a good leakage, you know.
You know, it costed someone their job, and you're here saying it's good.
Yeah, it was a good leakage, because that actually tells us that journalists would have taken a chance to go and investigate more on the impact it would have in our country, and we are already feeling the impact now. You know, so that was a good leakage. But leakage is that actually, you know, there are things that I can't talk about. Anyways, so when it comes to the issue of ICT, we know previously media was being used as a tool of mobilization during the war. This has changed over the years, that ICT now, especially social media, is being used as a tool of mobilization. So people who are aware that they cannot go to the villages calling the youth to come out and fight, they use their social media pages to mobilize. So we cannot actually say that whatever information that is being shared online is not having impact. It has a lot of impact. And we have seen now everybody is scared of the name Nasir, because of what we have seen on social media.
It becomes a punishment. Someone saying anyone does something, send them to Nasir.
Exactly. So even imagining Nasir alone can send a fear that for the next, I don't know how many years, others are cursing themselves, for my lifetime I don't want to go to Nasir. But that shouldn't be the case. We should actually think of redeeming such places. We should learn from history. And such incidents in 2022, actually such incident happened in Tonj, where the civilians fought with the army and they actually killed the soldiers. They displaced them and took over the barracks. You know, if we were to learn from such history, some of these things will not happen again. But because we are not learning, they are happening. So there is a need to quote historical issues where we can learn from, but not the traumas. You know, we are too traumatized that some of the things we just related with what happened, and this cannot take us forward. And regarding the issue of insults, you know, especially from our brothers and sisters abroad, it's okay that they are insulting people, but you know, in real sense, what they are doing is not good, because you cannot insult an individual and then you go and insult the whole community. A community that have nothing to do with what you are doing with the other friend of yours or whatever that you did. So these insults, by the way, are the ones that slowly build up to hate speech, because someone has had community B being called A, then they will copy from there and they come and write a statement that this community is like this, based on the rumors or the insults they had. On the issues of disinformation, misinformation is when information is shared without the intention to cause any harm. So you find information online, and then because you don't know whether it is the correct information or not, you share it. So you didn't have any intention to cause harm. But this information is designed with the intention to cause harm. That is why somebody will say, in the next 3 hours, they are going to fight in the barracks. This is what happened in November last year, right? When we found ourselves running from different markets to our home. And actually my neighbor is one of the senior commanders. And his own drivers and relatives who are running coming home. So I asked them, you should be the one feeding us with the correct information on what is going on, because you are holding, literally, you people have the correct information at hand. They said, no. We cannot rely on the official information based on based on what is happening now. We should follow the crowd. So they said it's not that we don't know this is incorrect, but we are following the crowd, because if we remain where we are, maybe criminals will come and hijack us. So we also followed everybody. And these are some of the challenges, because people go to the level whereby, the protection is not in the hands of the government. It is me to protect myself. So it has reached to that point whereby you take personal safety and security to yourself. Finally, on the issues of my brother, I'm not aware about the chief editors and senior journalists who are in the army and the other forces. This is something new to me. But if they are, and as you mentioned earlier, Media Authority actually is doing accreditation of journalists. And in this process of accreditation of journalists, which we didn't have before, Media Authority now have the right to do the background check of those who are practicing journalism. And this has been a challenge, especially when I was still at the Media Association. Some journalists will be arrested. You go and advocate for their release, and you are told so-and-so is not a journalist. And you start asking themselves, who are they? This is their byline in the newspapers. These are the audios of the programs they produced or the news they have been broadcasting. They said, no, this is our staff and we are dealing with them on administrative ground. And then it closes your mind, because how can you go and argue with the boss of somebody? Thank you.
Okay, let's give Wani to give his remarks so that and also the DJ will conclude.
All right, thank you so much. I think I will be very brief. I will start by highlighting my colleague here. Yes, it is good to have some of these institutions in this forum to come and also give their views and their opinions as regulators, the Media Authority, the Standing Committee on ICT in the Parliament. But I want to believe that we are not only here just filling gaps for our institutions. I'm not only here because I'm a lawyer, the Deputy SG of the Bar Association, but I am also one of the few, if not the only, expert on technology law in the country. So that's why our presence here was necessary, to provide, a broader perspective. So that's on that. From the side of the Bar Association and someone who is relevant within this industry, I think it's very important for us to be proactive. A lot of us, when we sign this social media, when we sign up into these social media platforms, we tick certain boxes without necessarily going through them. Yes, because we don't have the time, but also sometimes because we just don't care. And every now and then, this is actually the code of conduct or the community standard that regulates how we're supposed to use these social media platforms. And within it, we have powers, as DG have mentioned. We can report a user, or you can report a content. If there is a content that you think, you can report it. Sometimes you will report in maybe one day, they would, send you a text. you know, rejecting what you are reporting, saying this does not contradict our community standard, blah, blah, blah. But also, even if they do that, for example, with Meta, with Facebook, they have the oversight board, the Meta oversight board, which acts as an appeal board. When the algorithm automatically rejects you know, when you report and the algorithm rejects it, you know, you have the right now to, you know, re-appeal it, you know. So sometimes we don't use that. A lot of us, a lot of South Sudanese, we don't even, I doubt whether we even know that such modality exists. One, two, for us who even know, sometimes we don't even take the extra action, you know, to try to maybe, you know, submit this, you know, to the to be reviewed by humans and eventually submit it to the oversight board, you know, for proper review. Yeah. So this is something that I would encourage a lot of us to look into it. Lastly, I think to all of us who are here, let's try to be proactive. Yes, we have the right to express ourselves. We should not, because a lot of sentiments here were coming, it feels like you should not speak, you should not criticize your leaders. It is our right to criticize our leaders. This is one thing that I want to make it very clear. It is our right to criticize our leaders, but how are we doing it matters. And this is very important. So if you are out there, you are listening, all of us are saying, you know, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, and we have not highlighted the fact that it is your right to criticize your leader. It is your right, but how you do it is really very important. And then lastly, I am looking forward for the Parliament to resume their sessions, I think in 1 or 2 weeks' time, to try to also follow up as an institution, but also as a person on the cyber crimes and computer misuse bill. And also, I think this is a call for all of us, especially Gama and some of the colleagues from the, the sector. We've seen in DG's comment, he have thrown the ball back to us. He doesn't even know where the data protection bill of 2020 is, because it was developed by civil society. So let's try to pick up that conversation, and hopefully within a week or two, we'll go back to him and we'll say, this is where the data protection bill is. How do we now push it forward? I think these are the...
Thank you so much, Wani. I think actually before even giving to the DG, there is a time I actually had an issue with this content moderation. You know, SSBC, they put this thing of like, you remember that they said like, police arrest niggas. So I took that screenshot and I shared it on my timeline. Meta immediately flagged it. They're like, hey, you know, you're using the N-word, you're whatever. So I'm like, you know, it has a very different meaning in our country. And I appealed, and they immediately took it down again. And that's one of the things where you see like content moderation. I think in the context of South Sudan, it's a totally different things. So let me allow the DG to give his concluding remark, and that can also close the event for us.
Yeah, thank you, Nelson. And thank you, Mary and Stephen. You see, this issue of social media and the whole concept of sharing information has its own physiological way. These systems are designed to capture you psychologically. There is an impulse when people want to be the first to share information. And this impulse is not out of blue, it builds over time. And a lot of people want to get things and they want to rush it to their group so that they feel certain status, that they have access to information. This is a race that is going on within WhatsApp group. In fact, people share information without even reading. They don't read it. They just get it and share it, and then it is shared back to them. So you can see the level of rushing. What is driving that? The only thing that's driving is that as human beings, we have this tendency, when we are in a group, you want to be the most informed person among the group. So those working in government offices will be able to snap government document and rush it to their group, and please don't share with anybody. But he has shared with 20 people. Okay? And it will go to the next and to the next. So why I'm saying this, there is so much moral responsibility. Before you share, please ask yourself, am I sharing it? Do I believe in what has been written? Do you actually understand? Do you know the origin, where it came from? And what is the intention, why you are sharing it? Unless it is adding value to your group. But otherwise, you are basically promoting whoever sent out the document. There was a comment earlier about government document going out. Government document goes out not because the employees are not paid. It is to do because level of professionalities. We become employees of government automatically and we walk into the office of the minister for the next 5 years without one day attending government code of conduct. It's not there. When was the last time? Even the ministers being appointed, by the way. None of them are set for a workshop. I remember back in 2005, they used to collect these ministers and send them to Mombasa to tell them, you know, this is government procedure. Okay. Now you can be appointed from Kondokoro and straight into the office, and tomorrow you are handling the most sensitive document. And who come with you? You come with your son as your secretary or your cousin. Okay. And now somebody who was selling mandazi is now handling documents. Okay. He doesn't have the guideline. So there is a lot of personal lack of understanding what are the boundaries of your social connections and your profession. People come with their laptops to the office, and that laptop they will write ministers' letters. When they are sacked, they go with all their documents. Okay? They go with all those documents. The new minister will come with his group and their laptops. And then when they are sacked, they go. So a lot of government documents are going out and in. And what does that mean? It means the government does not have a secure communication system. We have been approached now, developing, to put in place that government can have a single server so that you can log in, develop your document, print them. When you are fired, the file should remain, and leave the electronic files. This is one effort that we are addressing, we have identified, and we are supporting the government to develop this system. If you see also, many governments are using free mail like Google and Yahoo for sending government officials. While the rest of the world, whenever you send me an email on Google, it will go to junk mail, if especially it's on my official page. So this is also another area there is so much. So there's a lot of work to be done to curb the information leakages. One of them is training of government employees. When was the last time have you heard that civil servants are being trained on government procedure? None. Yeah. And civil servant is the largest number of employees in this town. None. Very few of them have attended, maybe under secretaries, director general, but the clerk, the clerical staff, they have no clue. So if you don't know that you are breaking the law, you will always think that you are doing the right thing. Okay, so this is where the source of leakage that is going on, and at least this has been brought to the attention of the government, and we are helping them to say there's a way it can be done. Even these people get basic training on terms of what is confident, what is private. On the issues of content moderation, it is a global debate. It's not only unique to South Sudan. What has made ours very aggravating is the fact that we are a country, not just new, but we are emerging from multiple conflict. We are coming from many conflicts, even at family level sometimes. Because imagine you have your cousin, they are growing up in Egypt, and your auntie is growing up in Kampala, and another one in London, and you all converge in Moniki. In that house, the guy from Egypt will think all of you are Kawajat, and vice versa. We have seen that. Let's be frank. You'll find family, even opinion are different. Okay? The others are called Wewe, and the other one are called Jalaba. And when one falls sick, he wants to be taken to Egypt, otherwise there's no other doctor. The other one, when he has not gone to Nairobi, that means he has not been treated. So you can see that these are things that come with a community that have a large diaspora. We are not the first one. Many of these countries with many people who have gone away from country and come back, there's always even conflict at the family level, at the community level, even at the opinion. So we are not alone, but we have a chance. What is unique about our country, there's a lot of young people online, and that's what makes me very happy every day and to give me hope, because the people that I see accessing technology are young people. It means that they have the power to change it. And I have seen, it was 2 days ago, I was watching some music, even I shared with Nelson, some young people were making music in Nuer language and in Dinka language, and I don't know the other one was Shuluk or something. Yeah, and you can see, if you listen to that, that is their effort to de-escalate the current dialogue that is going on. Nobody has called on them. Somebody made the music, he got his Nuer friend and his Chuluk friend, and they produce a song. When you listen to it, you can actually understand they are speaking to our people that let's focus to hold our country together. Let's not listen to the incitement from whoever is coming from. And I think these give us glimpses of hope. We cannot rely on, government is our government. We are the government. So if we want to have a social media that advocate our diversity, even if we disagree, but it maintain that we are a country, it is us who can go back online. I would actually appeal to say that try to go back to your Facebook account, see the features for reporting. You can see the features for reporting. And it is very rich. You have so much power. And that is what happened to some of the people. They dislike the video. When the video disappears, they actually think that it is us who remove it. I wish I have that power. I would remove half of those people abusing me. I heard somebody saying, how can they remove mine and they don't remove that one of those people? We are not the one removing it. Anyone can report, and it has been our wish. If we have the capability to remove those noise makers, then why would you go to the length of shutting down? And that's why we are building this reporting mechanism. The situation will change because we are in dialogue with Meta. And the dialogue, they have given us a greater, higher priority now because their chances of our country can be returned back to conflict through propaganda. And they have actually understood that. They are now paying attention to us. But that is a very, very slow process. It's a very, very slow process, as you heard from Nelson. These people have their own way of following. And imagine in 2025, with the coming of Trump in America, Trump, as someone who has been blacklisted in a platform before, now most platforms are throwing out restriction. Now they are throwing out restriction because nobody wants to be like what happened to Trump during the other administration. So convincing them now to bring down a page is become very hard. You need to present a lot of evidence, a lot of proofs. Moderation itself is actually being removed in the whole Facebook has shut down a whole department. We used to do what?
Fact-checking.
Fact-checking. They have stopped it. Now they do something. Community can go online. When you don't like, you can comment and say, this is not true. And then their algorithm will attach to that information that it is fake. So the platform themselves are changing. Okay? And it is for us here in South Sudan, especially those on ground, because majority of people now that are spewing so much hate speech are not actually in Juba. Most of them are abroad. They are not here. Some people left Nasser almost 50 years ago. So, but it does not mean they are not the children of Nasser. They have a right. But we only appeal to them that we have one country. We don't have another country. So let's try to engage each other. All of us here can actually become advocates of fighting hate speech.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, DG. We can clap to the panelists. And I also want to thank everyone for dedicating their time coming here. I would say it's rather a very fruitful dialogue and a discussion. We can also clap for the audience and everyone here. It is not a very easy handling these topics, especially as someone who has been in this country for, I spend a lot of time outside. I mean, if you can consider Khartoum and Nairobi outside, I spend a lot of time outside. So you find this country, we are very, I think our identity in this country means so much. You know, I never realized that I'm Equatorian, by the way. Unless other people are the one who are telling me. Because in my where I grew up, like I know my tribal identity as a Fojulu, but the identity as an Equatorian never meant a lot to me. It's in this country that people are reminding me about it. Hey, you know you're Equatorian. And then, because it is interesting why I'm saying this, because I, like, to be honest with you, when you rank the youth, I might mean something to the people at seniors, but when you rank Equatorial youth, even who line up and meet I could be number 560. Nobody, leave alone. So then when people say it, I'm just like, okay, what do they mean? Like what does this identity mean? But I realize in this country, for whatever reason, for conflict and what, identity means a lot of things to people. To the extent some people even are fighting for sub-Payama situation in the University of Juba. Someone is, it baffles me. I see it as a very interesting way, but it's something that you have to dialogue with. So over time, you know, when you don't understand something, you need to appreciate it at least. So for me, I appreciate that our identity means a lot to us, but also it shouldn't become a source of division. Yeah, that's the same way also. I never used to understand that the Dinka people are so many, are like different things. Someone used to come, you know, this guy is from this and this and this place. I said, I thought they're all Dinka. They're like, no, like this one is from this place. So it took me time now to understand the subsections of this. And I think as we live in this country more, you understand there are different layers of identity that happens, but it should never be a source of division or a source of conflict. As the DJ said, we only have one country, and this time it's even more critical because all our neighbors are lighting fires. Sudan is no longer safe for us to run to. Kenya, they are almost, they're holding, the only thing that saves Kenya is that they don't have history of carrying arms. Otherwise, they would have lit it up. Uganda is also the same. We have issues between Rwanda and Congo. So at this time, we might even be at a place where like, we cannot run anywhere. Yes, we cannot run anywhere. So at least we need to manage this. We need to manage whatever we have. We need to manage whatever we have. We need to create whatever something that we can sustain for us. And even for US, Trump has blocked us now from visa. So there is no way. You know, like when the issue with the Sudanese happened here, I have a friend who works with these agencies. He's saying that a lot of the Sudanese are saying, oh, take us to the US. The US has now blocked all the roads for some of us to go there. So there is no avenue. Even the West are now very anti-immigration and stuff like that. So I think the only solution is work on your own country. US aid has shut down. I was looking at the statistics. 22 projects of US aid have been affected in this country. And that is like billions of dollars from HIV to what. So like, I think that the solution here is for us, we really need to look at ourselves. We don't have a way out. We need to look at ourselves. You need to go back to hug the communities next to you guys, tell them, you know, we even don't have the resources to fight. We really need to sit down and in our language you call it ngonga. It means you need to stick together and suffer together until these things happen. Thank you everyone for your time. There are some drinks there, so you can buy some drinks, chill a bit, and we can call this a night. Okay, thank you so much.